You know that feeling when you see a high-end speaker on a website, those sleek lines, the deep bass promise, the glossy wood veneer, and you start picturing a home theater that finally lives up to the movies you love. The problem is, most of us have bought something that sounded amazing on paper, only to find it either underpowered for the size of the room, or just too delicate for everyday life. I've been there, and that's why I'm taking a hard look at the Klipsch Heresy IV Heritage Premium Floorstanding speakers in red oak before you click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about why this model keeps showing up in recommendation lists. The Heresy line is a nod to Klipsch's historic horn-loaded design, which basically means the driver's sound is directed through a carefully shaped horn rather than a traditional dome. In theory, that should give you higher efficiency, tighter bass, and that signature Klipsch punch that many audiophiles chase. The Heritage version adds a rear port and a hand-finished red oak veneer that matches classic furniture, so it's as much a piece of decor as an audio component. Who should consider these speakers? If you already have a mid-size to large listening space, say a 20-plus square meter living room, a dedicated media room, or an upstairs den with high ceilings, the Heresy IV can actually shine. Its horn-loaded front-firing design means you get a lot of acoustic output without needing a massive amp. I've spoken with a couple of owners who pair them with a modest 200-watt solid-state receiver and still get the kind of room-filling impact you'd expect from a 1,000-watt system. That efficiency translates into lower power bills and less heat in the amp, which is a practical advantage if you run your system for long movie marathons or weekend gaming sessions. On the flip side, if your space is a cramped apartment or a small bedroom, the Heresy IV's size and output can become a drawback. The speakers are roughly 3 feet tall and tower over most conventional bookshelf models. In a tight room, the horn can create a booming bass that overwhelms vocals, making dialogue sound muddy in movies. For those who prefer a more subtle, balanced soundstage for casual TV watching, you might find these speakers a little too forward-facing. Another practical consideration is the rear port. Klipsch added it to extend low-frequency response without relying solely on the horn. In my conversations with installers, the rear port does indeed give you deeper bass, but it also means you have to think about speaker placement. If you sit the speakers too close to a wall, the rear vent can cause unwanted port noise. Think of a subtle whoosh that becomes audible during intense low-frequency passages. The easy fix is to keep the rear at least a few inches away from any surface, which is manageable in larger rooms, but can be a headache in tighter layouts. Now, let's talk about the wood veneer. The red oak finish is more than just an aesthetic flourish, it actually plays a role in acoustic damping. The veneer is book-matched, meaning the grain runs in a consistent direction, which can help reduce internal resonances. In real-world listening sessions, owners have reported that the sound remains tight and controlled, even after several hours of playback. That said, the veneer is still a relatively thin layer over a MDF core, so if you're looking for a speaker that can survive being knocked over or handled roughly, you'll need to treat it more like a piece of furniture than a rugged piece of equipment. A protective floor mat or a sturdy speaker stand is advisable if you have kids or pets who might bump into them. One hidden trade-off many buyers overlook is the need for a decent subwoofer. While the horn-loaded design handles mids and highs with impressive clarity, the low end, despite the rear port, might still need reinforcement. If you're a movie lover who expects deep, cinematic explosions, think Thor or Mad Max, pairing the Heresy IV with a quality sub will give you the full impact. Conversely, if you mainly listen to vocal-centric music or podcasts, you may find the built-in bass more than sufficient, and you can skip the extra expense of a sub altogether. Installation is another area where the Heresy IV stands out, for better or worse. The speakers are designed to sit on a floor stand or directly on the carpet, but the horn's angle is fixed, meaning you don't have the flexibility to tilt the drivers upward or downward. In practice, that means you need to place the speakers at ear level for optimal imaging, which might require a riser or a dedicated speaker shelf if your furniture doesn't line up with the speaker height. The absence of a tilt mechanism isn't a deal-breaker, but it does add a small logistical step that first-time owners sometimes miss when setting up their system. From a value perspective, the price point of the Heritage pair sits in the upper mid-range for premium speakers. You're paying for the Klipsch brand Heritage, the horn-loaded efficiency, and the handcrafted wood veneer. If you compare them,